Hi teachers, I'm Becky Olson, the coordinator in the Milwaukee region, and I get to join the Lesson Gems team for the month of May. Today I'll be talking about Lesson 206, In the Temple, We Covenant to Keep the Law of Consecration. I'm going to give you 4 quick ideas for this lesson. The first will be an introductory activity, then a look for activity, and a partner activity, and then an idea on how you can do a discussion at the end of the lesson and have every one of your students participate. Let's get started. So the first thing is to find the lesson objective, which is here at the end of that introductory paragraph. And for myself, I wanted to make sure that I recognize the difference between this one and the lesson we had last week on the law of consecration. That one was to help us, the students, learn to want to live the law, and this one is to understand the law, and that it's one of the covenants that we make in the temple. So the lesson objective is a little bit different than what we talked about last week. Then as I was looking for the bolded truth, I noticed this right here that talked about assessing the student's prior knowledge, and I decided that I wanted to start with this instead of using this recipe idea. So I have a quick game that we can have the students play to just assess their prior knowledge, see what they remember from last week, and we'll use this instead of this recipe idea. Now, have you ever played Taboo, the name game, headbands, these games where you're supposed to give clues and the rest of the group guesses the word? That's what this game is like. So you're going to have one clue giver, and they'll come up and you will show them a word on a card, and only the clue giver can see it. They'll give clues to the rest of the class. As soon as somebody guesses the word, you'll then flip to the next card, and they will give clues for the next word. And there's 4 words that they'll give clues for. Now, you're not going to trade students in between. You're going to keep the same clue giver throughout and let them know that the words are going to get a little bit more difficult. So if they have a harder time giving clues, that's to be expected. Just don't make it so that they feel embarrassed if they don't know how to give clues for that word. But the first word is temple, and then once the class guessed that word, the next one is covenants, then the next one endowment, and the last one law of consecration. Now, hopefully with law of consecration they have a few things to say because we talked about it last week. If they don't, that's totally fine. Let them, if they wanted to pull up someone else to help them, if they couldn't think of clues to give, have them pull up a helper. This should just take a couple of minutes, and it will help you to know where they are with the understanding of endowment also, so that you know if there's some additional teaching you need to do so that they understand all of this content that you're going through in this lesson. Once you complete that initial activity with the students, you can go back and state your lesson objective. Also, I might just add this part here that is the objective of these laws that we covenant to obey. This is an important tie-in. And then I love this particular part where it connects to the general handbook. When you click on that link, then it opens and there's actually quite a big section there. And I thought it would be really helpful for them to be able to go to the handbook to identify these laws. But that section was there was a little bit too much reading. So I put that section, an abbreviated one, on a shared Google Doc so that you would be able to read these first couple paragraphs with the students, then have them identify in these next 5 bullet points what are the laws, and you can write them up on the board in order. And then you can read this last paragraph with them. So that will really quickly give them a look for activity to identify the 5 laws like it has here. Now, let me just give a word of explanation about this shared Google Doc. I'll put the link in the video description. I've also included a QR code. If you decide to print this document, totally fine. Your students can use it as a paper copy. If you want them to be able to access it on their phone, you can put this QR code in your slides or print off this paper, and some of them could scan it and open it on their phone. So you can use it either way. For the next activity, I've added scripture references on the second page of this document, and these are all hyperlinked so that they can take the students directly to that reference. So my recommendation is to use this as a digital doc. That way, the students can just click on that and it will take them really quickly to that reference. So again, you can use it as paper or you can use it as digital. All right, so we're to activity number 3 that I promised I would share. So there are a lot of scripture references throughout this lesson. I've highlighted some of them for you, and I just decided I wanted them to have all of these scripture references together. Here's a couple more, and there's some here at the end. So that's why I put them together in this on the second page of the Google Doc and hyperlinked them. And then I wanted the students to be able to work with a partner. And here's the first one. Look up 4 of the scripture references, highlight and tag. They would tag it Law of Consecration. Now, if they're using digital scriptures, you may have to model how to highlight and tag. But this way they would be able to look up that tag at any time and have a ready access to all of these references that they're marking. If they're using paper scriptures, they can do a scripture chain with some of these references, and they can write those references in their margins. So the list of scriptures is a long one. That's why we just have them look up 4. This also, you could identify certain students to look up certain ones if you wanted to break it up that way. But it's really nice to have them looking up different scriptures so that as they are sharing later on, they're sharing different things with each other and teaching each other new things that they may not have had a chance to look up. The second thing they're doing with these references is, what do these references teach about the law of consecration? So they work on these 2 with a partner for about 5 to 7 minutes. Then you put them with a new partner, and they're going to teach their new partner what they learned in their searching with the first partner. So first partner is search, second partner is teach. This teaching activity with a partner is just a modification of this activity right here, where it says to write 2 or 3 sentences that explain the law of consecration to a teenager. Instead, they would just be teaching with a few sentences to someone else in the class. Now the last idea is how to get a class discussion going where all of the students can participate. Now I took these questions from this part of the lesson, and then also down here there's a couple more, and I put all of those questions together on the 3rd page of this document. And I would invite the students to take a minute to look through those questions and see which one they want to answer. Give them a few minutes. They could even just jot down a few ideas for themselves on what they want to say. And then when you have your class discussion, you just let every student share. I mean, depending on the amount of time you have, but those that you invite to share, they can choose which one to respond to. And that way they're choosing one that they feel really comfortable with and they've had time to prepare. And this will be really critical so that that discussion is a very robust discussion and so that the students feel really confident in their responses. All right, that wraps things up. I hope that at least one of those ideas is really helpful for you and helps to make your lesson prep go a little bit easier and helps your students to have a great experience learning about the law of consecration. Thank you for all you do. Have a great week.